everybody. Welcome to the Coach's Journey podcast. Robbie here, and this is a Coach's Journey short. It's a format of episode we've released once before, and maybe we'll do lots more in the future, where we take a clip that someone in the team thinks is a really impactful short section from one of our, lengthy back catalogue of episodes. This one comes from episode 50. I should have checked this before I started, shouldn't I? 53, I think, with Sarah Fox. And it's a conversation that Sarah and I had about how we organise our finances as freelancers, as self-employed people, as coaches. You'll join us midway through a practical conversation about thinking about business, and then a couple of minutes into it, it starts to get really practical with the literal things that Sarah and I do, the way we organise our money, where we move it, which account, how many accounts we have. And there are a couple of reasons that this ended up getting to the top of the list for me. Basically, I spoke to two people. One was a freelancer whose work I really respect, and he was just talking about how he manages his finances, and I added in the one bit from the system that I'll describe in this episode that he wasn't doing, and that just felt like it made a big difference for him. There was just one piece that he was missing from what has made all the difference for me, and so that reminded me how important it is, and somebody else reminded me that when they heard this episode, it's just completely changed how they organise their finances for the better. When they heard, not the original Sarah Fox interview and the bit in that we used. So there's loads of great stuff in this. The mindset of paying for caring about ourselves, separating priceless you from your business and the work you do, the practical way that changed how my finances are organized, and the profit first idea that Sarah uses, and how all that changes about how we can invest in our businesses. Like for me, and this is the thing that came up with the freelancer that I spoke to recently, why a rainy day account is very important for our businesses. It's worth saying I've needed it this year. So I'll talk about how I started saving 5% of my income. And in the end, actually, I got from that 6 months of income. But a bit like the story I tell about one of my coaches in this episode, sometimes things happen in our lives and not as much money is coming in. And I've needed that this year, so it's been really important. And we also get to the insight that finally got me to sort out my finances. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you take away from it. Let us know if there's any other parts of episodes from our back catalogue that have been really impactful for you, and maybe we'll release those as a short in the future. And of course, listen to the end of the episode to find out about how to support the Coach's Journey podcast. But wherever you are right now, please do click subscribe or follow. That makes us do a little happy dance when we do our KPI measures every month. So look forward to having you back with us on the Coach's Journey podcast sometime soon. And please do enjoy this practical conversation about how to organize your finances as a coach with me and with the fantastic Sarah Fox.
So yeah, it's about knowing your numbers, and then it's about looking at how much time you have. So I don't want to be working 80 hours a week. I take all of August off. I take all of the other school holidays off. So I have to take that into account as well. And then I just sort of try and do it that way, figure it out that way. Yeah.
I guess what I hear is that, you called it the nitty gritty in the work you do in the Lasting Impact program with people. It sounds like that. It's not like fun, glamorous work, right? To work out how much the bills are for the company and the home, and then think about time in a really practical way. But it sounds like for you, I think it's basically been true for me as well, although I don't think about it in that much detail these days. I do a bit more of I feel. But I remember doing, I probably talked about this on the show before, I remember doing an exercise as part of my coaching training, looking at where I wanted to get to. It was part of the coaching training, and working back from there. And this was early on imagining, and imagining it would be running alongside some other work, which I was doing at the time. And It was really powerful to have the numbers worked out. My experience of my personal finances in work and personal life, my finances for me, is doing the sums never makes me feel worse. My fears about money are always worse than the reality, even when the reality is bad. Because at least because part of the fear is underneath that I'm not really conscious of is, what if it's much worse than I think it is? And then when I know how bad it is or good, and therefore I don't need to worry. So I think doing that sum is really important. I also hear that kind of challenge. That it sounds like you've seen a slight challenge with this group of people that you love working with and making it all add up.
Yeah.
Which is that it doesn't, is what it sounds like. Is this right? It just doesn't really.
It doesn't.
You know, with those, the constraints being what people in certain financial situations, or it really made me think of you looking after yourself as well, though, right? Because part of coaching or any other thing like this is looking after ourselves. And we're just not used to investing significant money to look after ourselves, really. Especially when we don't have much money, right? That's like the last thing we do, because partly out of necessity and partly because we don't have a pattern of doing that.
It can be considered selfish. You know, it's interesting the number of people that come to me, and you know, even that, you know, not even having a separate bank account, for example, for your business, everything goes straight into your personal bank account. So the idea then that you would pay for some coaching for your business out of your personal bank account, is so screwy. It's like, I can't, you know, because then it feels like you're taking away from your family. And one of the things is about trying to like go, how can we get into this? How can we separate you as a person, you know, you're priceless, all of those things, to this is your business, like the coaching is your business. So what do you need to do there? What does the business need to invest in order, you know? So I recognized quite early on that I'll do social media, but like it takes up a lot of time. I don't feel you know, writing isn't, I don't really enjoy that as much, although I do love my newsletter. But so I recognize that by investing in someone who can take some of that stuff away from me so that I can focus on other stuff, actually that's brought in more money for my business. It's not really a risk, because it's been really helpful, and also just to have someone else to talk to, you know, as much as anything. But yeah, that kind of just separating self from business, I think, getting into that mode of talking about the business rather than I can't invest. Actually, what can you know, and I think that can be a bit of a struggle if you've always seen yourself as just a freelancer. And so it's like it's getting into, it is that nitty-gritty, knowing your numbers, but it's also really knowing yourself and separating yourself from the work that you do.
Yeah. And look, on a really practical level, I got this advice from somebody else. It's not the numbers now are mine, but the idea wasn't the best. The thing that's made the most difference to my personal, having my business and personal finances in order is basically, let me just say this for people listening. I've got an article somewhere which says it, but it's easy to just say it, is that when I was to split off my accounts, first of all, then it takes a while to get everybody to start, if you've got people paying you on a regular basis, start paying into the right account. But in the end, what I now do, every time I get paid, probably there's a software that could do this for me, but I do it manually because I quite like doing it manually, because I feel the hit of, I am in control of this every time I do it. Money comes in, it gets split 4 ways.
Yeah.
It gets split some to my current account. So this is like, somebody told me later on that there's a whole movement called Pay Yourself First, which I've never heard of, which I'm doing, which is like, or profit first.
But it's profit first. Yeah, I use it. I use that method.
So it's the same. Yeah. Essentially, it's what I'm going to describe. But so some money, and mine is usually 50% goes into my current account that I operate my life out of. I use the number 25% to go into a tax account.
Yeah, me too.
And it's interesting. I remember somebody once saying that 25%, it needs to be more. And I've never found it needs to be more. Even, I will see this year. So this is the first year I've tipped into a higher tax bracket, or the financial year just gone. Probably. I'll need to double check it. I haven't done my accounts yet. it'll still add up then because of the expenses in the business and the tax-free allowance. So, and I think I've been like, when we moved into this house, we bought a new house, I took some money out of my tax account, partly as a cash flow move.
Yeah.
Because you want to have for deposits and solicitors fees and that kind of thing. And I don't think I need it, because I actually think 25% is also, what do you call it? Like covert savings.
Yeah.
But I then have 5%, which I always thought would go to 10, but I don't seem to be doing that, into a rainy day account. You could tell it was created while Game of Thrones is on, because it's called Winter is Coming. And then that means, if you add that up, that 20% stays in my business account. I sometimes flex that in different ways, just for listeners, because it might be like, if I know I'm going to spend a bit more money on my business, I might, and my current account is doing okay, I might leave a little bit more in the business and that kind of thing. But it then means that when I'm deciding whether to spend £100 on a workshop, I can look at my business account and go, is this a sensible investment?
Yeah.
And it always is, right? Like investments of that scale in my presence and insight and knowledge and learning, they're like, and especially when they're a workshop, because you might meet people, which might be, is the beginnings of business development. It always makes sense. And when you've got those bigger things, you get a bigger question. And then I had this great insight. Have I talked about this on the show before? I don't know. That the percentage thing is like a huge difference. Like, because it, like, psychologically, it just really works, because when you've been paid a tiny amount of money, I've had someone pay me a relatively small amount of money, £150, then 5% of that is such a small amount of money that it doesn't matter that I'm sticking it away in my rainy day account. And when I get paid £1,500, I've just got £1,500. Doesn't matter if I put 5% away in the account. So it's like, it slows down what's in your current account. So at first you feel nervous because you're used to having all that money in one place, but that was always an illusion, because you're going to be, you're having that nice feeling of having all your money in your current account now, but you're going to panic like hell when you have to pay tax. And you're going to feel really uncomfortable when you're going to invest in a group program with Sarah Fox, because you're like, this is money for Sarah Fox or for my cornflakes for my kids.
Yes.
Like, what is the right moral decision there?
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to say that, because I think that getting into the practical of these things is really important. You might want to say something about that.
I would really recommend that. I feel quite smug, because someone told me about the Profit First really early on. So from very early on, I was putting 25% aside, and then for 2 years I wasn't using it. So it's still in my business account. Or it's I've got another account where I put the tax stuff to kind of keep it out the way, I suppose. But again, that cash flow thing, sometimes you need to move things around, but knowing your numbers helps you to make that wiser, healthier decision, rather than that sort of panic, oh god, I haven't got any money coming in at the end of the month. And like, people do take sometimes they take longer to pay, and all of those things. But I do a very similar thing. I don't have a rainy day account. I have a profit. So I put 5% into a profit. And every quarter I take half of that and I buy myself something really nice.
Nice.
Or I put it, like, I went on a retreat recently, which was amazing. And I used some of it to sort of pay for that. Felt very a special thing for me.
Just to catch it, I like that rainy day account. You do what you will, obviously, with this, but like, my feeling is like, that is quite an important move as somebody who runs their own business. A bit for the same reason that, like, you and Tom had to do so much research on People United for when you left, because if you get ill, or like some of this came from one of my former coaches, who said that Rich said that when his dad died, he basically didn't create any new business for like a year, because it had such a big impact on him. And he needed that money. And one of the things he said is, which is so true, if your business gets more successful, the percentage is important, because it's really easy. And most of us have had times in our life where we've had more money and times when we've had less. And you don't necessarily save, right, in the times when you have more, because you buy one more coffee or sandwich out a month, or you go to the cinema one more time, or you're just a bit freer with not splitting a bill here and there. And suddenly that extra money you have is gone. I think for me, that's a really important one. And sometimes I bring money out of it, and when I need to or want to, and like, again, when we when we moved house, it was like, okay, how much of this do I need for the next year versus how valuable is it to have some deposit savings there?
And it's fine, but I think, again, it's like coaching, isn't it? If you know the stuff, then you can decide what's useful to you and how you want to do it. And I think so one of the talking practically, one of the things that I do is I don't move 50% straight into my current account. I keep it in a separate space. I use Starling, which I think is great, because also Starling have just brought out this ability to automatically do the percentage thing.
Nice.
Which is brilliant.
I'm still not sure I'd do it. Like it's just like a real out breath for me about my business. It's like, whew.
Yeah, I mean, you have
part
to
of my
write
celebration of the money coming in, all that kind of thing.
You have to write in every time with your, it's not an automatic thing. So you're still, I agree. I think there is something about every invoice, because again, it's like, then you get to know your numbers and you get to know what money is coming in. But what I tend to do now is within that, in the profit first system, it's called owner's compensation. That's like the name of the space. But what I do now is I pay myself a certain amount of money every month. So there might be some left in that owner's compensation. And my aim is to have 6 months worth of salary, income, revenue, whatever, as a backup.
So that's where your rainy day account is. Yeah. I get it. That's nice.
And so every month I take out of my owner's compensation and put that into my personal account. Yeah.
And that also helps with budgeting, I imagine, in your personal finances.
Yeah. But again, it takes a while to figure this stuff out and work out what works for you.
It does. And so what I would say to people but I'm always really aware of my tendency to think, when I've worked this out properly, then I'll do something about this. So that's the wrong decision. The right decision, this is one of those times when I just have a very strong belief. The right decision is to choose one of the things that either I or Sarah, if you're not doing anything about your money in your business, choose one of the things that you or I have just described, start doing it now, and later on work out something better. And what I discovered is the thing that I panicked. I realized basically the insight I had that set this up for me finally after years of not doing anything was realizing how draining it was to worry about my money and not doing anything about it. The worrying about the money is one thing, but to worry and then not do anything was the thing that was just killing me. And so it's like, I need to do something. And so I'll start doing something now. And it turned out, as is often the case in my life, because I'm an overthinker and a procrastinator, it's like, it turned out that the okay thing that I'll start doing now and I'll upgrade to something really good later was actually more than good enough to last 5-6 years now. Hello, everybody. Robbie here. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and that it helps you take more control over your finances. Such an important thing for us to do in the world we live in. And those small steps that we outlined in that episode can make such a difference to how you feel about your money and to the practically being in control of it. So wishing you a financially, prosperous and spacious 2025 for sure. So just a few quick things to share with you before you go on to the rest of your day. Thanks for getting all the way to the end of the episode. I'm imagining that means you think the work we're doing is important and valuable. We think so too. That's why I want to tell you about a way to support the coach's journey and get coaching from me and be part of an amazing group of coaches. That is, join the Coach's Journey community. It's my flexible, affordable group coaching program for coaches. You pay either £20 or £100 a month, get access to a certain number of group coaching calls each year, plus some one-to-one time with me if you're a full member, and various other benefits. And of course, you get the chance to be connected to other amazing coaches on their own journeys. And we get into things like this, like the practicalities of finance, as well as client creation, as well as how do we thrive and survive in the challenges of being a self-employed person and running our own businesses, and many more things on those calls. You can read testimonials and find out loads more at thecoachesjourney.com/community and also sign up there. It's also possible to become a supporter of the podcast if you want to give financial support to us, but the community isn't right now. You can find out more about that in the show notes wherever you're listening. And if neither of those is right for you right now, please, as I said at the start of the show, click subscribe or follow wherever you're listening to this podcast. It makes a real difference to us, feeling like we're making progress and in the medium term, long term, being able to keep the show free. Thanks so much to everyone who's supported the Coach's Journey over the years, but in particular, thank you to Alex Whitten, Alison Malone, David Norris, Jessica Jem, Linda Ransom, Lucy Braun, Rosie Stanbury, Alan Bedding, Joe Merriweather, Michael Trugman and Nick Wells for your ongoing support. Thank you too for listening, and we hope to have you back with us on the Coach's Journey podcast sometime soon.